Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Hello, dear family from Contemporaneo, Asheville. We are so excited to have you in our gallery living room. And even more excited that we have our very special guest who has just become our dearest friend, and we absolutely adore her, Miss Preston Davitt.
Cheers to her.
Yeah, exactly. This is like Watch What
I'm
Happens
sorry
Live.
that you are not here, but we have to
Drinking
drink.
game. Preston is one of those remarkable people that you come across not very often. She's a philanthropist, she's a style setter, she's an incredible intellectual that can have conversations about finances, through arts, through what's going on in society of today. She is a true supporter of Asheville. She's a native of here. Spent some time with her husband and living in New York City with her kids, and back here in Asheville. And we are so honored and privileged to have here in our gallery, Preston Davitt.
Nice to put on nice clothes. Have an excuse to put on some makeup and a pair of heels. So thank you very much for this inaugural interview regarding arts and the art scene and all about Asheville.
I think we first met you. I think your husband came into the gallery first.
She came first. And she fell in love with Jose Marguli's piece, which, by the way, that piece that you see behind her is also from Jose Marguli's.
Well, be thankful that there was a very long line at the White Duck on Biltmore Avenue, because that's where I was going to have lunch with my family, and the line was so long that I said, I'll go walk up the street with my daughter, and we found this place. I'd been by it, and I just hadn't stepped into it yet, and I see it and walk in the door and greeted by the ever so charming Francisco, and I come in, and it was one of those moments where you just, this is not the norm of what you see in a gallery in Asheville. Yes, there are lots of fine galleries here, there's a lot of lovely proprietors, but I hadn't seen this style of kinetic art with a South American bent in Asheville, and I was just, this was 2 years ago.
Correct.
And I was completely blown away by what I was seeing, and the color and the texture on a two-dimensional painting that was moving with you and changing with you, and then you start figuring out, oh my God, the math behind this stuff is insane. So run down, see this, head is exploding, but I need to go get lunch. So run into White Duck, tell my husband and my son, we'll eat up fast because we're going back up to this gallery, and they're going, oh.
White Dog, by the way, is White Dog Taco. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
White Dog Taco is great.
With amazing tacos.
Yes. And so we finish up our lunch, march back up the street, all four of us descend like art screaming locusts into the gallery, and the relationship was essentially born right there. And I fell in love with a piece by this man, Jose Margulis, and it's green and white, and
Tennis
the tennis court.
Yes.
And so he works on slices of acrylic, and then through math can make the undulations with lasers, and then when it's cut and then inserted onto a background, it starts to move with you. And so this one is called Tennis Court because it's a green background with white slices, and when you walk by it, it literally feels like the back and forth of a tennis rally. So that was, and it's just a gorgeous, very simple piece that he made. I was just completely struck down by it. It was just so beautiful in so many different manners. And I think this was in September.
Yeah.
And then I was very fortunate that it wound up being my birthday present that year. And it was
Happy
a big
birthday.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was a big birthday. And so it was really nice to get something like that. And so
She was probably turning 30.
Thank you. But I think also, that what this gallery has done is bringing something to Asheville that hasn't been seen here. I think that there's a freshness to this place. I think that the fact that you focus on a lot of the artists have an architectural or engineering background before going into their art is really, really fascinating. And then I think what sealed the deal for me is that there was a lecture at this other think tank event space called
the Collider.
The Collider,
Mhm.
yes.
and they had this other artist,
Enrico Rupp.
who is Venezuelan, Miamian, brilliant.
New Yorker.
She's just
Exactly.
a runaway freight train of brilliance. And she gave a lecture, and it was about her art and her process, but then she also folded in her conservation.
Yes.
And she takes pictures with a big drone, which she says is getting more difficult to do because less places are allowing drones to photograph.
Mhm.
So what she likes to do is go back to the same region in different places in the world twice and see the difference of what the erosion is or the change is and photograph it, and she's trying to incorporate that into something new now. And when she was talking, it was just, I was standing beside you and going, this is just unbelievable. So they bring in these artists that are just so unusual and so approachable, which I think is really nice because
Absolutely.
in a gallery, I think people get trepidation on coming into places or even auction houses and things because there's that intimidation factor. And I think what people need to realize is that it's a good and service industry. So there's a tangible good that you're purchasing, which is the art piece of whatever
Yes.
capacity. And the service is the information that's getting relayed to a person, to a customer. And that
Correct.
is, I think, paramount to establishing those relationships.
Yes. Yes.
So that y'all do extremely well. And I think it's always so nice when I'm in here or just stopping by, a customer will come in, and it's never an unapproachable
Oh.
phenom in here. It's always extremely approachable, which I think is very nice because I've gone into those big white box galleries in New York and had the men and women that are very good looking and are either so snotty because they want to be snotty, or they're really snotty because they literally don't know what they're doing. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know the art, and they're just simply there just to look nice and be an accessory to, you know, that Jeff Koons garbage. So that's how I kind of look at it. Why I like this place so much more.
Oh, it's so kind, and you're one of
Better
those
commercially impossible.
No, exactly. And you're one of those rare breeds. I mean, you were born and raised here in Asheville.
Yep.
You have deep family roots here. You went away, and then came back and chose to move here with your husband and raise your children. So tell us about that journey, and tell us how, you know, after living here in Asheville and then in New York City and, you know, in Chicago, I mean, marrying all of those experiences together, and how you see Asheville from where you were growing up here to now being here as an adult and, you know, living a professional life. You know, talk about that transition and the influences of the big cities compared to here.
It's it takes about 20 years sometimes to get back to home, and Asheville there wasn't much, unfortunately. You know, downtown was nowhere. There was nothing really to do. There wasn't much vibrancy. There was this kind of cool underground music scene, but you had to know what was going on to get to it. And the art scene was pretty limited. I remember, I think Blue Spiral opened
26 years ago?
Yeah.
something like, I think it was around right before I graduated from high school. I think it was right about that time. And you know, we didn't have much. I mean, you had the auction houses and things like that, so people could collect, or you would have to go out of town to find your pieces if you did. I think everyone sort of collected on a very traditional vein at that point in time.
Correct.
And then, you know, I went off to school and then went to Chicago after I graduated and thought I was going to go into the art world, and unfortunate turn of events put me into finance. But, you know, when I was in Chicago for 6 years and then moved to New York City and outside the city for about 13, and I just said I had enough, I'm coming back. But, you know, yes, I did get to see a lot of the world. I've experienced a lot of things, but I will say coming back to Asheville has been really great for a lot of reasons, because Asheville has definitely bloomed, where I can see, you know, other big cities are not blooming quite as profusely as we are. So it's been very interesting to see this place, spread out, and then sometimes you feel like you don't see anybody when you're downtown because there are very few locals. Sometimes you know where to find each other, but it's either on one end of town or the other end of town, and that's about it. I think that though it's, I think this influx of new people, new energy, and people coming back has been really beneficial to the scene as a whole. And I think it will continue to do that. I think more people are moving back that have spent time in other places. Friends of mine and people that spent time here when they were younger, if they were vacationing, have decided to make this their permanent residence, and I think it's been really interesting to see. I think it's a great thing.
Well, and I know that's what drew us from Miami here. We came here in 2007 and fell in love with Asheville because we saw the individuality and the fact that local business was so honored here, and that people could come here and establish, reinvent, just be. And the food scene is incredible. The beer, the art scene is absolutely amazing, and the people here we just find to be so incredibly authentic. And in meeting people like you who have established roots here, but still have experiences in other places, and seeing the beauty of Asheville and what Asheville has to offer. I'm always a firm believer that Asheville chooses you. You don't choose Asheville.
Right.
And we felt this immediate connection with this location, and we knew with our love of arts and the Asheville reciprocal love of arts that this was the perfect opportunity for us to develop this gallery. And another part of our passion with this is we want to become more involved in the community, and that's another reason why Preston has been such an incredible relationship for us, is because she's an amazing philanthropist, and she's very connected and let me step back, that word, connector, is definitely something that I would ascribe to you, that you connect people and causes, people with people, ideas with people. I mean, she has a Rolodex in her mind. I've never seen it before like this. I mean, she can remember when she met you, what you were wearing, your kid's birth date, how many kids. I mean, it's just incredible. But she uses that to connect people and to make people feel included in what's going on within this community, and that's so incredible, and that's something that we've experienced with Preston. So in order for us to give back, it's so wonderful to find people who have the same passion and this altruistic vision of what it can be. So I mean, my long introduction. Can you talk a little bit about your philanthropic work and where you were involved in Asheville and beyond, actually?
Yeah, I mean, I've been involved with a number of organizations when I was up in New York with breast cancer awareness, which was based in Greenwich, and then the Allen Houston Legacy Foundation, which is the former Knicks basketball player. He had a whole really neat, kind of like a father-son mentorship with using basketball as the metaphor to connect sons and fathers. And then he also had an entrepreneurial course that he was trying to teach kids that didn't have access to some of those skills and those people and things like that, which I thought was really fabulous. So helped run one of his big events. It was super successful. Now I'm down here. I'm a trustee at the Brevard Music Center, which is just so amazing.
Cheers to that, yes.
It's just a phenomenal organization.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in these times, we had to shut down our entire season, and we can't have our kids there learning and training because it's a summer program as well as a massive summer festival season. But we're pivoting like everybody else is. They're actually going to have drive-in movies this summer.
Oh, fantastic.
Only 80 cars, and they're Platt Architecture, which is Woody Platt, Steve Crange-Ranger's father's architectural firm, and his brother's also involved, are building a 30-foot screen just so 80 cars can come in and watch.
Wow,
these
that's
different
amazing. We have to do that.
Bravo.
Look at brevardmusiccenter.org and you can find out when and tickets, and it's only $15 a car or something like that. It's great. But I think
Community building.
it's community building.
Yes.
And I think, I don't understand when people have all these resources available and they're very miserly with sharing them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that is healthy. I've found that people should share the information that they have, and
Yes,
I
yes.
found when I was living in Westchester that people were very guarded with a lot of things, and including just information in general. And and it was very lonely, and I didn't like it. And I when I came back here 6 years ago, said I'm not going to leave somebody in the dirt that is new to the area if I like them and they're good people and it seems to work well. And that's why I brought the Brevard Music Center to Contemporaneo 2 years ago.
That's right.
And we had a
Fantastic
run out.
program.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So we had opera singers here that performing. Mark
Brilliant.
Weinstein came and did his little speech, and we had 50, 60 people in here, and it was whatever was the legal limit. It was fabulous, and we do those. That's what you do. You connect arts with a big A. It's not just
Absolutely.
Visual art does not sit in a vacuum. Music does not sit in a vacuum. Dance does not sit in a vacuum. It all has to work together. It's all this one, just like us all on this big crazy planet. We all have to work together. There has to be some sort of symbiosis between all these points. So it's been, I guess I like if I know somebody and I know something that could help them, well then why not share? It's way more
Correct.
fun.
And we are very passionate about Miss Gay Latina, Asheville. That's something that when we first moved here, I told Francisco we have to go see this. It's absolutely spectacular. We don't know. It sounds spectacular, and it was amazing. So we decided that would be something that we wanted to get behind, and we invited you
Yes.
and Dennis to come, and Preston immediately got behind this amazing pageant as well. And in fact, she was able to bring down Garo Sparrow, who was one of the finalists of Project Runway, I think in 2019?
Yes.
And amazing designer. And
Fashion Week New York 2020.
That's
He
right.
was last night in the,
and the Real Housewives
of New York.
Exactly.
And very interesting. And this is the first time when Gary mentioned that event here in Asheville. I said, Gary, Asheville, and that. Wow. That year we had been at the Miss Universe in Miami, and then we went to this event, and we were like, "Are you kidding me? This doesn't have anything to compete with an event like the Miss Universe, the production and everything."
Thank you,
So-
Elio Gonzalez.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
So now we are believers that, like Preston, that we have to keep supporting this amazing. For us, it's like the event of the year because it's all about talent and supporting your community.
Yeah, it's all about support. It's all about supporting the community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, whether it's your LBGTQ,
All the letters of the
plus,
alphabet. Yeah.
Yes, inclusion.
Absolutely.
That's what the whole pageant was about. You
Yes.
know, you can be trans and you can still be a part of this. You cannot be trans and still be part of this.
Absolutely.
You can be straight. You can be gay. You can be anything, as long as you want to get willing to gussy up and lip sync and look fabulous and.
Which is very much Asheville.
Yes.
Yes. And that's what I would encourage anyone to do. I mean, when you think of philanthropy, you automatically think of money and giving money. Philanthropy for me is just becoming involved within your community. It could be volunteering. It could be obviously writing a check. It could be just attending an event. Just support, because there's so many opportunities within this community that are absolutely exceptional, and you just pick and choose what you're passionate about or what you're interested in or what you're curious about, and you get involved. And that's something that in meeting Preston, that we were able to find additional opportunities, because Asheville is such a incredibly rich community of people who just want to support, and I love that.
One very important thing that I want to, since we celebrate the present, but we are always looking for the future. Preston is someone that loves fashion as art, as a manifestation of art. And since day one that we opened the gallery, we have always thought that there has to be a show
Absolutely.
about the cross pollination between fashion and art and vice versa. For example, the Prado Museum in Madrid did an amazing show of the influence of, for example, El Greco in Balenciaga's design.
Yes.
We had 15 days ago the amazing interview with Eduardo Sosa and Nelson Reyes, one a designer and another one a choreographer, that collaborated for our anniversary dance performance, not ours because I'm not in shape to dance, professional dancer at the Diana Wharton Performing Arts Center. And someone like her that has so much knowledge and interest in fashion as an art, it seems like a perfect collaboration for 2021. To create an amazing show, like when they did the Shine, at the Met, the show about the China through the broken glass, if I remember well. The show at the Met with
the Costume Institute.
Absolutely.
Correct.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there are many things coming, very interesting. Contemporaneo and Preston also never stop. We are like a 7-Eleven, always, always open for new ideas, and I don't want to sequester the time from you, but
Sequester the time from me.
exactly.
If you could tell us, because you're so wise and you're so reflective, and every time that I have a conversation with you, I always walk away feeling enriched and
Aww.
so much better as a person. And we are just so happy to have met you and with Dennis and your children, and you've just become such an incredible part of our lives. And you are so representative of what the best of Asheville is.
Aww.
So,
When she's not in bad mood.
right.
Ah!
Exactly.
So, I mean, if there's something that you can say, especially during this time where, we're all experiencing such an upheaval and, questioning and uncertainty, and, in your wisdom, in your analytical mind, I mean, is there something that you could say that has been important to you or reflective for you?
Well, it's been really interesting because we're all sort of stuck. We've all been posited at home. So stuck is not a good word because that's pejorative, right? That
Right.
doesn't make you feel good. But we're at home a lot. We're in our homes and our spaces a great deal, and it's been very interesting to be at home with my family for extended period of time.
Likewise.
Some good,
Exactly.
some bad. But I feel like I'm fortunate that I have been collecting art my entire life, or objects or collections or things like that, and I come from a family that has just done that, and really lucky that my uncles were actually gallerists and art appraisers and auctioneers and have done some really amazing things with their own lives. So art to me has always been very natural, that I've always wanted it, and not in a greedy way, that it just makes me feel good. And so when I've been spending all this time at home, I'm kind of re-looking at things again, because you're not just passing by on the way to get out the door to get to the grocery store, to pick up your child, or to do something else, or get to lunch with a friend. I'm spending a lot more time dwelling on what I have, and I'm really appreciating it a lot more and more, and seeing not just the aesthetic, but the workmanship on things. And it could be as simple as looking at, an antique brass candlestick, or
Right.
a really contemporary piece
Like
of
an heirloom
art.
from grandma.
Yeah, exactly. And then you start looking at it and you're going, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
the skill and the workmanship and the time that it took to make this
Yes.
object is really immense. And I think it's this forced slowdown has been really good in a way, at least for me, to really reappreciate things. It's not about, you don't have to just keep consuming, but when we get to go back and start spending, I think buying a piece of art, and the beautiful thing about buying from a good gallery like this is that they will work with you. You can spend, you don't have to spend all that money at once. You can spend it over, they'll let you do things over time. And good galleries and good artists will let you do that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
And I think that people need to look for the quality and buy something that they love, and it doesn't have to be the most expensive thing. It just has to be and it doesn't have to be the trendiest thing, the coolest thing. I might hate it, but you might love it. That's okay. It's subjective.
Right.
And
Correct.
going for a quality piece from a good gallery is probably one of your best investments right now.
Mhm.
It'll make, maybe not just for your pocketbook or a later divestiture where you could hopefully make a profit, but also just good for your soul. Art feeds you. It really does.
And what I love about buying art, and obviously we've been collecting for a while, there's no middle person. I mean, obviously the gallery is the conduit, but you're buying something that someone has created, has thought about, has had passionate about, and you're buying like a piece of that that ideal, or that passion that
That
is
frozen
created.
moment in time.
Exactly.
That's why art is so.
It's incredible.
That's why when I was in college, my degree is English. I have one degree in English, and I have one degree in what's classically called art history, but we actually called it the history of art and architecture, because what you had to learn, at least in my concentration at my school, is that you had to learn not just, okay, here's a formal interpretation of this painting. We were learning the politics, all the things that were going on. Particularly a lot was the politics, of course, but just the history of the time period when
Right.
something was being created.
Yes.
Why the artist responded to something in a different way.
Even the materials that were being
Even
used.
materials.
Exactly.
Yes.
And one thing that has been so fascinating, especially in this forced slowdown, I mean, most of cultural institutions are doing virtual tours and virtual activities. I have been particularly impressed, for example, of the job that the Prado Museum in Madrid has been doing. It's like, even if I go tomorrow to that museum, I have had so much in-depth knowledge in a not very academic way. Like,
Right.
here is this piece from Weber, El Greco, in the period, but in such a like visit way, informal way, that it has been like a new way of things even before you go to a museum. So we have to learn of all the things that have been done recently, because we will go back to normal, but the new normal implies to be very interactive, to do things like what we are doing
Correct.
today,
Right.
to humanize the artists. People want to see the artist studios. People want to know about people like you and see your efforts to improve your community through philanthropy, through the Brevard School of Music, whatever the endeavor is.
Right.
So,
Well, and I also think that, and you raise a good point, I think one of the transformations of this unfortunate time period, there's a silver lining, is I think people are reassessing access.
Right.
How we access, I mean, you're talking about the Prado Museum, they might not have ever done something so outreaching if we hadn't been in this situation. what we're doing now is as a result of,
Mm-hmm.
you know, this unfortunate situation. So what I think it's doing is it's providing more information, more access, more availability for experiences that we necessarily wouldn't have thought of unless we were in a time of, you know, survival. And I think this
Right.
is a renaissance.
Well, I think it's great. I think, sorry to interrupt, but I
No.
think one thing that's really great is that this information flow from museums or from galleries, where it feels like it's in a more casual, less academic method,
Correct.
Mhm.
is really positive for the viewer. I feel
Yes.
like it breaks down that wall of, I don't know what this is, so I'm going to feel resistant to it. I think that this makes it feel, oh, okay, so if there's some sort of anecdote behind this piece, and then I get to go and see it live, oh, it's going to re-jog my
Right.
memory of that. And I
Right.
think that that kind of relay of information could wind up being a really good thing. And I do think this could be a renaissance, not just in the arts. I feel like a lot of artists are really creating a lot of stuff right now. But I feel like it might be a renaissance in our own cosmic mind. Of saying,
Absolutely.
like,
Correct.
absorbing this type of knowledge is really good for you.
The slowdowns makes you
Right, and I don't.
more reflective.
On the
Yeah.
news websites, I get a kick out of people who are inventing new things to do with their children during this lockdown, or creative ways to cook, or you know, designing you know, apparatus to make their lives a little bit easier. I mean, people are coming up with these just crazy ideas that are so incredible that now, I mean, you know, unfortunately, but fortunately, I mean, when you have the time to really dig in and access your creativity, because you do have the time and maybe the inclination, I'm fascinated by what will happen when I don't think we'll return to normal, so to speak,
Right.
but you know, when we're back to a point where, you know, we're interacting on a more personal level.
Absolutely. Well, you know that this is your home, your second home.
It
I
is
don't
my
want to
second
take you
home.
from your husband. She has the best condo
We love
place. I
the
will
Davitt
move
family.
to her place any day. I mean, like 30-foot ceiling, historic building, incredible.
You just want dinner. You
We
just
have
want
exactly. I
dinner.
want a free dinner, a freebie. Probably the next video will be in her house, so she can talk about her art. But anyway, this is just the beginning of